Let's go back to some of these anomalies we have seen, because it would seem as if it has a semblance of what happened with the 2016 budget, proper communication. Who do they liaise with? Maybe any communication coming from the executive arm. You want to tell us that?
Well, all I know is the Senate has its leadership, and of course, I can speak on behalf of the Senate. I can't speak on behalf of the executive.
I know you certainly can't speak on behalf of the executive. The question is communication coming from the executive arm. How does it get to the Senate? Because if you have a liaison officer in the executive arm on National Assembly matters, one would have thought that they also have someone representing the National Assembly who should also liaise with them, perhaps, and point out some of those missing points in that communication.
Yeah, that is true, but even the liaison officer is not responsible for writing the communication. So perhaps he wasn't carried along, perhaps. I say perhaps because I'm not there. Like I said, I can't hold forth for them. But all I know is that, yes, the liaison officer is supposed to be the bridge where he understands the workings of the National Assembly and he advises appropriately. How much of his advice is being carried into consideration in all of this, I don't think I'm in a position to answer. But expectedly, given the pedigree of the person who is the liaison officer, Senator Itainak, is one of the ranking senators. He has been, chairman, Senate Committee on Business and Rules and Business. And so I believe if it is for the quality of the person who is liaising, I think he has all it takes to guide effectively. But the question still remains, in guiding, if he advises, is it brought into bear in all of this? That is something I cannot answer. Our concern at this end is what has come to us. We need to look at it from the standpoint of what our responsibility is.
In going forward, a while ago you just reminded us of your oversight function in the agri sector. Perhaps talking about this loan and linking it to what you have seen, do you think it is necessary for us to go for the loan?
Yeah, to an extent, given the fact that if you look at the funding of agriculture, we are underperforming as far as I'm concerned. For the past 10 years, the African Union, through a very robust study, came to the conclusion that, look, if African countries will benefit from agriculture as their key asset and as their key sector to take them, through the path of growth, then they need to spend at least 10% of their total budget on agriculture. And I will tell you, I was in the Agri Research Council of Nigeria, and the research system through the West African and African Union system were able to advise various countries. Rwanda went through to that 10%, Burkina Faso went through to that 10%, Kenya went through to about 7%, Uganda went through to about 9 to or 8%. And all of these countries I've mentioned, I will tell you their agriculture are doing very well. In Nigeria, up to this very moment, we are paying lip service to agriculture. Our research institute that's supposed to be the engine of growth of our agricultural sector are moribund. In fact, many people, curiously, who don't even understand the system and how it works, are even saying we have too many research institutes. When in contrast, we don't even have enough research institutes. You have only National Animal Production Research Institute for all the animals that you can think about. One institute. And if you go to other countries, they have at least commodity base when you look at all of our commodities. So the point is, yes, there is room for us to do all of these things, and across the value chain for that matter, because even when you produce, you need to move this product. Do you have the right transportation network that will move your agricultural products at cheaper rate so that it's competitive? Do you have the processing plant? Not the white elephant plants that some people have done for us over the past year, which we call the staple crop processing zone, which if you go in there now, those who have done the contract have done the contract, and the buildings are there just lying in waste. So this is not the kind of thing we're talking about, but looking at agriculture as a practical endeavor, as a business, where if you put in 10 naira, you can get 20 naira. And I will tell you it is doable. Countries have done it, and people are there making progress. Some countries don't even have the resources we have, but they are depending on the agriculture to feed their citizens and to ensure that they have the hard-earned currency to diversify into other sectors of their economy. So I think it is something we can also replicate.
But Senator, there are those who...
I want to focus a bit more, because before the National Assembly, before the decision of the National Assembly was taken, beg your pardon, the Senate, before the Senate took their decision that it took, they were already, clamorings as to whether or not all regions were going to be equally affected by the benefits that should accrue from these loans. There were questions as to whether or not the Southeast was going to get anything at all. And I think from what people had seen in some other quarters, maybe the attachment was not, given, but it would seem that some details had been given to the public, or perhaps certain people were privy to some of the details, that there was nothing for the Southeast. Do you think that that had any bearing whatsoever on what eventually transpired in the Senate? Because you just said also, sorry to interrupt you, but you just also said that as a senator you will be concerned about how it is that your constituents will benefit from what is going to come from that $30 billion loan.
That is exactly why we are in democracy. And that's what democracy means. And that's what it means for you to have senatorial districts or federal constituencies. Now, I'm happy you said some people have privy to it. You see, it's rather unfortunate that the way governance work is changing in the wrong direction, unfortunately. For me, as good as it is for some people to have private, or prior knowledge of what government intends to do, I want to believe first thing first. If the Constitution says if you want to borrow, the National Assembly has a rule, it's important that it is the National Assembly that should unravel to the public what the executive intends to do. But what we have seen here is, in many instances, some of these things are given to the public even before the leadership or even the National Assembly members are able to see what it is. And that is not good for our democracy. I was in service, and I know whatever it is that you say, no matter how open you want to be open, there are grades or classification of information. Because when I was sworn in, I had to swear into certain words that says I will not misuse certain information or privileged information that will come my way in the course of discharging my duty as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This means that yes, it's expected there are some information that will be confidential, some will be secret, even secret, some have top secret. And I know all of this thing is done so that you manage information in a manner, not because you have anything to hide, but because you don't want to create unnecessary confusion in the system.
So how do you think this will move forward? Do you think that if it comes back with details, the National Assembly will be more disposed?
Yeah, the National Assembly will be more disposed to looking at the details, and I want to believe they will take it on the merit of those details when the time comes.
Well, Senator, we have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily. We've been speaking with Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, who is the Chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs. Sunrise Daily will continue shortly. Do join us again.